A lethal river of metal flowed from the cauldron, killing the thickness with a long hiss, filling the space between the clay moulds. A heavy steam rose from the melting wax. Stephen Marsh, his gloved hands gripping the cauldron's edge and an apprentice at each side for balance, tipped the last of the molten alloy into the small hole at the top of the mantle. Iron bars, tin ingots, a touch each of copper and lead, all melted together and skimmed for impurities before the pour. Soon enough, the liquid bronze would cool into a bell duly stamped with the lozenge of Stone's foundry. Then trim, sound, file, and polish until the instrument achieved its final shape and tone, made fit for a high tower across the river. Like pouring out the sun. For that was how his master, Robert Stone, always liked to describe it, this mysterious shaping of Earth's metal into God's music, pouring out the sun, until the sun withered and killed him. With the cauldron locked and pinned, Stephen wiped his brow and dismissed the two apprentices. He looked over toward the door to the yard where the sour-faced priest stood with crossed arms, watching the founders at work. 2 bells formed like this one, Father, Stephen said, removing his gloves as he walked toward the foundry's newest customer. The parson of St. Paulinus, Crayford, a parish to the southeast of London, here at the beck of the churchwardens about a commission for the new belfry. The first tuned at ut, the second at re. I sound them myself after the moulding, and I have the ear of Pythagoras, so you needn't worry about a symphonious match. If our bells are not well-sounding, and of good accord, for a year and a day, why, we'll cart them back here to the city, melt them down from waist to mouth, and cart the new ones to you out at Crayford, all at Stone's own expense, and all inside a month. The parson looked sceptical. And reinstall them in the belfry? Aye, and reinstall them in the belfry, hiring it out to the carpenters ourselves, said Stephen. He removed his apron, a heavy length of boiled leather, and hung it on its post-hook. I poured side by side for 5 years with the master, bless his memory, and now I'm chief, founder, and smith, retained at the widow's will and pleasure. Your wardens shall be satisfied, I promise you that. The parson asked a few more questions, then Stephen took him up front to the display room to settle sums. An advance of £2 on 6 and 13, with the balance due upon delivery to Crayford, where the bells would arrive before the calends of— And installation, said the parson, raising his chin, clearly fashioning himself a shrewd businessman. Stephen nodded briskly. And installation, Father, with clapper and carpentry entire. Clean up as well, and Stones will be pleased to throw in a cask of strong ale for the company. The parson's eyes twinkled at this. Stephen had seen it before, the way that last trivial detail worked on the pastoral mind. How pleased my flock will be with their good parson, for getting them an extra day's work and a free drunk in the bargain. The note was signed, the deal waxed, sealed with Stone's lozenge stamp. Stephen was watching the parson leave the shop, preening over his bit of successfully transacted London business, when Hoisia Stone came in from the house passage. She stood there in her frozen widow's way, her mouth a flat line on the hard rock of her face. She had thick, muscular hands for a woman her age, which was a year shy of 30, or so Stephen thought, and her swollen middle mounded out obscenely beneath her bulky blacks. No confinement for Hoisia Stone, no feminine modesty for this steely widow, convention be damned. Mistress Stone, he said, and never knew what to say next. How does the good widow fare this day, Mistress Stone? What 1,000 tasks do you wish me to perform in the smithy today, Mistress Stone? And what new curses have you called down upon your servant's murderous blood, Mistress Stone? The parson's to buy, then? She rasped. He will, said Stephen. He nodded at the note and coin on the board counter. A solid commission? Fine. She went to the ledger and tucked the note into the book's back lining. The coin went in her purse. He stood there, acting the thrashed whelp, Hoisia the grey bitch of the place. In the months since Robert's death he had become newly familiar with her little noises, all those telling grunts he'd once been happy to ignore.